Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Amygdala. Spotting right here in the top right hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones, we have none other than Rogue and his opponent down in the bottom left with the red Protoss pieces. We're looking at MaxPax's main nexus. I almost called him the yellow Protoss, but that doesn't really make any sense because everybody always plays blue and red. Fun fact, for most tournaments, this is actually a rule. It's not necessarily enforced very much, but generally speaking, when you load into a custom game of StarCraft 2, red and blue are the 2 colors that you are automatically assigned. I always like it actually when you have a tournament that allows you to pick your custom colors, because usually there is a bit of variety there. A lot of players do not necessarily want to play with red and blue, but most of the time, you don't really want to get disqualified out of an important event because you picked the wrong color. I don't think there's ever been a moment like that, but obviously, if you are a professional gamer, no need to really mess around with any of that. Fun fact though, you can also change all of the colors in your own setup. If you're ever playing a game of StarCraft 2, you can go into the colors menu, and you can adjust any of the colors to your liking, which is pretty neat. It actually works quite well, especially if you want to create some contrast in the minimap, for example. On some maps, it's easier to work with other colors than it is with others. I do recommend, just for the versus Terran matchup, I've mentioned this before, but apparently a lot of people think this is funny. I do recommend you don't make your opponent red, because you don't make your own colors red, because it makes it very difficult to find a red dot of a tactical nuke on your base. How do I know? Don't ask. It's definitely not experience. Now, we've got ourselves no Terran in this game, though. What we do have is Protoss opening up with a Stargate. It's going to be a Adept into a Stalker. A little bit of scouting on the other side of the map. Of course, both of these players ridiculously good, so I'm not really expecting a whole lot of shenanigans here in the earlier stages of the game. But of course, it comes down to the execution first and foremost. It depends on how good you can control your oracles in particular, because the better you control them, generally speaking, the more damage you can deal as well. And, well, let's just say that MaxPax is stupidly good at microing his first couple of units, but apparently we did have a Stalker sleeping on the job, and it's gonna allow, well, Rogue all of the vision he needs. Then again, Rogue has already seen a lot of info. He's seen the timing of the Cybercore, he's seen the timing of the upgrades, he's seen that it's an Adept into a Stalker, and that's basically already a recipe for any sort of Stargate build. Plus, I mean, it's Protoss versus Zerg. Even if you didn't know anything, right? Like, just predicting the first 4 minutes of a game, I would say probably 9 out of 10 times. Maybe more than that. It probably should be more than that, but maybe 9 out of 10 times it is going to be a Stargate start. A Startgate. Alrighty, so let's see. Oracle doesn't really get any work done for now. Second Oracle is out already. This one is idling over at the third. A little bit of attempted damage done here, but nothing all too exciting so far. MaxPax is getting deflected with relative ease. He's gonna go for a Twilight Council on the back of this. No Forge yet. Roachwarren coming up right now. Looks like we may have had a single creep tumor or something along those lines. Getting sniped here. All of this is pretty normal. Although no Forge. I was wondering about that. No Forge does indeed mean that it's much more likely to have a Glaive Adept follow-up. So, rather than going for the conventional triple Oracle, which is usually what MaxPax does, he goes double Oracle into much faster Glaives. Meaning that these Adepts, they're going to be able to deal a significant amount of damage here in the earlier stages of the game. They're already heading across. Obviously, this is a bit of a fake-out. This is one of those strange plays that we see at a high level where you're going to show to your opponent you're making Adepts, but because you're showing them much earlier than the Glaive upgrade can actually be done, your opponent is therefore inclined to believe you're not going Adepts. Like, you're showing Adepts, but it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't make sense to be risking. This is definitely a council. It doesn't make sense to be risking Adepts. So maybe now the opponent believes that you're not going Adepts in the first place. It is one of those 200 IQ plays that can sometimes look like a 20 IQ play instead. Anyways, it is something though that the Zerg players go up against quite regularly, but he does need a bunch of units in order to deal with this. There's already 13 of those bad boys out. MaxPax has effectively just covered the entire bottom lane. There is a single Overlord, and that'll be the first time that he will see a mass influx right here of additional Adepts. Probes apparently managed to kill the one Zergling that was in that area, but how much work can we actually do against these very first units of the Protoss? Evo Chamber to complete the natural expansion's wall off. I mean, there's enough Adepts to just kill it. He cancels it for now. Can he restart it? Doesn't quite have the space. Stasis Ward is also going to be a nuisance. Drones decide to evacuate the main base entirely, and that is actually a banger play right there by Rogue. You realize where this was going. Still, though, there's a couple adepts in the natural split off from the main pack. Where did those oracles go? The oracles are apparently retreating down towards the bottom right. In the meantime, the other adepts from the main base are shading on over towards the third. And this is chaos all on the Zerg side of the map. I want to say that the crisis management here of Rogue is really good. So the Evo chamber blocks and making the pathing here as difficult as possible. But ultimately, we end up in a situation where it's 49 drones versus 63 probes. And this is where MaxPax is so dangerous. I feel like initially, over like the last year or so, you could criticize MaxPax. Initially at him playing at the highest level, right? You could criticize MaxPax for being a little bit predictable, but he's really been working on that. I haven't really seen him do a lot of these sort of openers much. At least not against the top-ranking Zergs. But he's been mixing it up a bit, small deviations here and there. And even though none of it is super out of the ordinary, he's very good at the execution. And now we're gonna go into the Blink. Now we're gonna go into the +1. Now we're gonna go into a 4th Nexus. It'll be up to Rogue to try and catch up as far as the worker count goes. The age of the Adept is over. The remnants of that fight are sitting over here on the watchtower. Mostly just taking control of a bit of vision to at least see if there's like a queen drop or any sort of aggression, like maybe a queen march, heading towards that 4th base. But since none of that here is the case, I think he's going to be able to get away with a nice and early Nexus. We do have a photon cannon over here. He hasn't seen exactly what Zerg has gone for, but obviously he did get some vision as well around the Zerg's natural in the main base. So it's unlikely to be a Spire follow-up at this point in time. So that means the Stalkers can start marching towards the other side of the map. Stasis Ward here, incredibly useful. If you can get a kill on this base, that would be massive. Those 4 adepts from earlier still hanging out. Some of the Zerg units, though, have been split off. I think in a straight-up engagement, these Stalkers will actually win. Yeah. Dude, MaxPax is a monster. I feel like the entire nature of Protoss has changed over the last half year. It's just so clean. Like, Protoss still, for a lot of players, for a lot of StarCraft fans, has this, like, vibe of being the all-army hotkey attack move race. And there's definitely some of that, but there's some of that for Terran, and there's some of that for Zerg too, of course. But we have been seeing some legitimately awesome Protoss gameplay as of late, and I feel like MaxPax really has been leading that charge. Now, even though he's dealt a lot of damage, this is by no means a Protoss win yet. Rogue is very dangerous, not somebody who you can really write off early. The Korean Zergs are generally very good at recovering from a deficit. They might not be known for the cleanest macro or the cleanest gameplay, but they're very quick with their decision making and deciding what the best next move is going to be. He's not afraid to like go for a Nidus worm or a quick, like whatever he feels like is best, right? Like he's very good at just pulling the trigger on whatever he believes is the right move. So far, it kind of looks to me like he wants to guide this into a relatively normal game. Problem is, if he wants to go into, say for example, lurkers or I don't know, any sort of hive play in general, it's all just gonna be so incredibly late. MaxPax not going for a 5th Nexus or anything along those lines yet. He is gonna round out his gateway number up to 10, which is nice. He's got Archon Immortal together with Storm. A lot of, well, Stalkers here. I'm imagining we have Charge done. Yep, Charge is indeed finished too. +2 is also on the horizon here, although it is still a while away. Yeah, Storm is gonna deflect basically any attack here from Protoss, or from the Zerg rather. Like, Protoss can just push it all around. That being said, the Protoss army is very slow, and this might be a oh, that's a juicy Storm. This might be a move right here for Rogue. I think it had the possibility of being a move. He's busy microing on the other side of the map too. We have a Zealot runway in the meantime, and a natural expansion of MaxPax. MaxPax has been styling lately. Those oracles from the early game, finally one of them falls, but how did he find the APM to send the Zealots towards the other side of the map? Yeah, there's a prism out here, but that is not easy. And every move so far of Rogue has just fallen flat on its face. Now, this is that scary moment in Protoss versus Zerg, where we've seen it go wrong for Protoss players over the last couple of weeks. Ever since the new patch went down, a lot of Protoss players initially were skipping early game, skipping late game, or skipping mid game as well, and going straight towards the late game. The transition towards a fleet beacon is tough. One thing that MaxPax has been going for that I really, really like is to not really make a transition towards Skytolls immediately, but just go fleet beacon for the mothership, and then eventually go into Skytolls. The problem you run into is that if you don't have 4 base economy, playing late game is really tough. And yeah, he does have 4 base right now, but if you make a big investment, like 1,000 minerals, 1,000 gas, into something that is, well, not attacking units right now, something that's gonna pay off in the long run, you may just accidentally lose. MaxPax has a lot of money available at this point, though, and maybe he could be a little bit more on top of his Zealot warpins. Decides to go for another Nexus over here, and I think he should start up the Mama ship right now. Right now. Make me look good. Come on. Oh, okay, fine. You can do it when I... Oh! When I look away! Classic. Rogue actually has been holding on. He's been that guy in the movie who's like hanging on the side of a cliff by his fingertips. Maybe he's gonna be like Gandalf, you know? Like, it looks like he's dead, but he might not be... spoiler alert, sorry. This is a really nice attack. Once more, he's forcing the Protoss player to be constantly split up, using the opportunity of that fast-moving Zerg army to his advantage. In the meantime, though, there's a little bit of an attack as well up north. Those units tasked with defending the northern section of the map. Yeah, once more, do get some work done. It looks like, though, this Nexus over here is in a world of trouble, and it might just go down. Yeah, this is what I was trying to say. So that moment that Protoss transitions towards proper tier 3, that also seems to be the moment that Protoss oftentimes can be hit in the face. There's a backup 4th. The 5th Nexus is just about to finish up. Stasis wards still being useful. Mama is almost out, though. Don't be scared. Mama is almost here. She takes a long time to produce. She's very expensive. Maintenance is not cheap. But when she's here, she's here to stay. No more abductions. And the problem, of course, that you run into right now as Rogue is that you kind of need Corruptors. But he also doesn't have money to go Corruptors, and he definitely can't go Spire here. So if that's the case, really what he's gonna do is just make more Hydralisks. But Hydras are fantastic to get, you know, Storm on, right? Like, if you manage to get a couple of Storms on a couple... Yeah, it's a nice target. So all that MaxPax really needs to do right now is chill here for a little bit. Make sure the Zerg doesn't really outgrow as far as economy goes. I mean, this is a Storm location and a half, yeah. Mama ship at this point is spotted. Okay. Yeah, I feel like Protoss really is in a... Like, there seems to be this weak moment when they're making that transition towards late game. And this isn't even with any additional Stargates. Imagine if you also made 2 Stargates and, like, +1 or something. This could be, like, +1 for the flying units. This could have been a disaster for Max. That's what Heroic was hoping for, but... Got a bunch of damage done, killed that base at the 6 o'clock, but that was about it. I don't know if MaxPax really needs to be here. I feel like this is overly aggressive. And maybe it is. Cloaking gets activated, Time Warp gets activated too, Immortals in the front. There's enough detection available for the Zerg player to really get this done. Still though, the mothership itself deals a lot of damage too, and there is just not enough Zerg. GG gets called, and MaxPax obtains the victory in game number 1. Next up, we find ourselves on ley lines. Yeah, I feel like MaxPax really has figured out the first maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes or so of the game. I feel like there's some room for improvement for the moment right after that. Now, in MaxPax's defense, I'm pretty sure that basically any game he plays on the European ladder, he wins by about minute 8. So, like, we don't have a lot of ladder games from, for example, Serral or, for example, Raynor. I guess those are his main 2 practice partners as far as, like, late game goes. Although, I guess if you're MaxPax plays in so many tournaments. Even though Raynor and Serral don't really sign up for a lot of online events, I do believe he gets a lot of practice as well, going up against, for example, the likes of Rogue. But I think that most of the time his early game is phenomenal. His mid game is incredibly good. We just gotta figure out that mid to late game transition. Because in the late game, he also seems pretty much unbeatable, but it's at like 2 to 3 minutes or so of going from the mid game to late game, where MaxPax does seem to struggle a little bit more so than any other moment in the game. It's partly due, though, to the fact that the fleet beacon is 300 minerals, 200 gas. It's really expensive. So as soon as you put that thing down, and then you also go into the +1, and you go into another, like another Stargate, or... oh my god. It's such a bully. Kills 2 of the creep tumors just like that. Yeah, already a really nice beginning here. There was a single Zergling. Energy recharge, though, coming in clutch. Allows that Oracle to activate the pulsar beam to snap that Zergling at home, and then also still go across the map to start putting in a little bit of work. As far as killing workers go, maybe we can kill some drones over here. 1 drone, 2 drone. Can you get a 3rd? Oracle comes in. It's like he's hurting the Zerg. The Adepts are very effective there, even though they died. I don't actually mind that too much. Losing an Oracle is the end of the world. Losing 2 Adepts, nobody cares. Yeah, it's the beauty of Protoss. Zergling speed is going to finish eventually, but it's a relatively late one. I guess Rogue decided to delay his first gas geyser, or at the very least he just didn't get it started particularly quick. Oracle tries to go back in, Evo Chamber gets spotted. I guess this is going to be for +1 melee. +1 melee is good, but also something that can be countered relatively easily, because it pretty much always goes into a Ling Bane-based army, or at the very least a Zergling heavy force. And obviously Protoss has quite a few good options when it comes to fighting Zerglings. And maybe he'll decide to go for charge first, or something along those lines. Even Glaive Adepts could once again be an option, but I think it's a little late for that. Could also just go Blink, though, yeah. Blink is kind of the jack of all trades. There is indeed +1 melee. Zergling's trying to be annoying. Oracle's up in the air. And it's once more, by the way, a double Oracle build. Curious. I feel like I've seen MaxPax pretty much every single game lately go triple Oracle. But not in this series so far. This is what MaxPax does, by the way, in basically any game. He doesn't really play the same build twice in a row, ever. Even though it's all like 95% the same, he makes little deviations, and it really doesn't sound like a big deal. But you do play against double Oracle a little bit differently than you would against triple Oracle. And when you see Adept into Adept, you do have to adjust as a Zerg player, compared to when it's like Adept into Stalker. There's a lot of these small moments that I think makes it very difficult for MaxPax's opponents to figure out exactly what is actually coming across the map. Now, this little Zergling run by could put a bit of work in, although nice movement. Oh, that was a great little probe walk there, and then a perfect little warp in as well. Yeah, that was clean. Super clean. Still though, Rogue has got a good economy, especially compared to the previous game, and we saw how scary Rogue was after falling quite a bit behind in the earlier stages of the game. That first Adept push put in a lot of work, and this fight over here from MaxPax is falling flat on its face. Lovely move by Rogue. MaxPax thought he had that defended when the Stasis Ward picked off quite a few of those Zerglings temporarily, but MaxPax, did not quite expect that there were this many Zerglings on the back of it too. And suddenly one of the Oracles dies, a bunch of the Stalkers go down, maybe the Zergling aggression can continue some more. There is a unit in the wall off, maybe the Cybercore is next. Yeah, and now making that late game transition here as MaxPax is gonna be really tough. Ooh. Tried to force field his own structure perfectly there. Got it done, but the Lynx could still attack it. He needs a 4th Nexus ASAP. And then he's also gonna have to make sure he gets the gases going. That maybe eventually you can go into a fleet beacon, but it's a long ways off. And that's exactly the time that Rogue is trying to make use of right now. So we've got a Hive coming up. Drop Alert is also on the production tab. I guess it's just to be a bit more of a nuisance inside of the main base. Unloading a bunch of Zerglings over there. Ultimately, though, this is a Hive together with a Lurker Den transition. So Rogue very much so is aiming to try and kill the opponent's 4th base, or at the very least, one of the outer expansions. Any damage done at this point is good. Not a huge economy, though, here for Rogue. He's mostly limited by the amount of gas, so I wouldn't mind maybe seeing an additional 10 drones and getting those gases going over there. It's a slow Overlord drop, by the way. Pneumatized Carapace is going to finish up, but it is not yet. MaxPax doesn't see this. I mean, somehow we have a little bit of a glitched fog of war, but there's no way that he's looking at that right now. And these Zerglings are going to unload and run into the mineral line. Zerglings over here trying to see if they can get Templar. Stasis Ward would be nice. Shield Battery is quite nice. Manually retargeting the Templar. Yeah, once more decent defense, but he does lose all of it. And 4th Nexus also in some trouble. Looks like the Zerglings from the main base have finally been cleaned up right over here on the low ground, but that's 8 probes. And also, once more, a whole lot of time. Now, you should use some of that time, though, to go into the lurker upgrades. We really do need the seismic spines in particular. Zergling drop is gonna once more head on over towards the main base. Looks like these units are gonna get cleaned up relatively easily, but it's still gonna force a response. And considering Rogue did not go for a proper late game transition yet, like, yeah, he's got Hive, yeah, he's got lurkers, he doesn't really have upgraded lurkers. And I would say that lurkers without upgrades are kind of terrible. Storm? It's a juicy storm. Come on. A storm for the fans. It wasn't necessary, but still. When you can hit like 20 Zerglings in one storm. I think Rogue is getting a little carried away here with the aggression. That upgrade is so important. He started Adrenal Glands, which is the Zergling attack speed upgrade. There it goes. He could have started this one up a while ago. He had the money for it. And that may very well take the wind out of the sails a bit. Here is the Fleet Beacon. Nidus network in the meantime, too. Let's see. Zerglings at the front. This is that moment, though, where MaxPax is dumping a lot of money into a, well, at least the beginning of a late-game transition. He needs to be very careful, because the Zealot over here is gone. A Nidus Worm together with a Zergling drop right now could be absolutely monstrous. You can't just warp in a couple Zealots against that. MaxPax did also put down 2 Stargates. Rogue has been relentlessly aggressive. I think he's going to use this Drop Alert to provide vision to put a Nidus Worm inside of the opponent's main base. Because clearly MaxPax is not respecting these Ling drops very much. And now if you warp in a couple Zealots, I mean, 8 Lings are actually kind of dangerous. Wouldn't mind it. We have additional lurkers coming up. There's the Nidus. Zealots do get warped in. They're targeted onto that Nidus Worm. Looks like the Nidus is gonna get the Knight. Okay. Fully upgraded. Or at least with the +2 for now. Those units do hit pretty hard. Zerglings in the meantime on the left side of the map also get cleaned up. I'm kind of used to seeing Protoss players fall apart at this stage in the game, but MaxPax has been playing a really nice defensive match. Oh, he's supply blocked though. Oh, that sucks. I mean, he's pretty much maxed out. Mothership is coming. Temp is now also on the production tab. Storm is gonna deny some of this, but we have 5 Drop-A-Lords. Maybe the lurkers couldn't go through the worm, but they have found another way. Now a Nidus Worm is gonna get planted down, and you can't just warp in a couple Zealots against this one. Probes in the meantime also dying over here. Recall towards the main base. That's always dangerous though, recalling into lurkers. Now the Nidus Worm does indeed complete. I think it's mostly just a means to go back home. In the meantime, we do also have some Zealots derping around on the other side of the map. A little bit messy here against some Zerglings, wasting their charge ability. Nidus Worm also planted down over at the newly acquired expansion for the Zerg player. Tempest is available. Yeah, Oracles can put in some work. Additional lurkers show up rather than a means to go home. We're gonna try and use this as an opportunity to snipe down as many of those tech structures as possible. MaxPax mostly just with Zealots over here. And Zealots, I mean, if you bring a couple lurkers, yeah, they're gonna get cleaned up relatively easily. This is MaxPax putting all of his eggs in one basket. The Mothership is out. Oh, this is not bad. A lot of detection here, and obviously the cloaking field is gonna prevent a lot of those structures from going down. MaxPax, maybe go home. I don't think we need to really go too ham here. Maybe just go home. We have a lot of money in the bank. I think it's fine. Whew. Dude, the mothership came in clutch. I'm loving the new role of the mothership. Oh. Still something in the wall off. Dude, watching Max... Oh, no, don't storm your own probes! Well, okay. That is, yeah, he wanted to kill the Zerglings, and then he, that is... Yeah. I think we can call that a Protoss moment. He clumped up the probes to try and save them against the Zerglings, but then he said, you know what, I'll finish the job for you. Mass Zergling drops will continue. Hats off to Rogue here, man. He's actually doing a really good job. Oh no, Rogue! Cancel that! Ultra Cavern, are you insane? Does he want to lose the game or something? We don't go Ultra Cavern, bro. I was asking for a storm for the fans earlier. Maybe that was the storm for the fans. Suboptimal storm, though. Zerglings are so obnoxious. This entire line of attack here from Rogue is actually super cool. We usually see Zerglings just doing that like once, maybe twice. But Rogue is just continuously sending units in. Lurkers in the meantime, yeah, they can shoot their spines up towards the high ground here from the low ground. It's one of the top 10 things that science can't explain. Aggression all over the map. Corruptors are coming. I don't believe in the Ultralisk, man. If I'm being honest with you, every time I see Ultras, Protoss just kills them, and then Zerg loses. That seems to be the jet. I want to believe. But these are going to be mostly unupgraded Ultras. You kind of need +3, and that's a long while away. Cloaking Field gets activated once again. No Overseers nearby. There's one morphing in at the very least, so Rogue is going to be able to get some vision of the units underneath. Massive Zergling run-bys. Can we look at the resources lost? Not even that bad. I kind of expected it to be pretty rough for the Zerg player, because Rogue hasn't really had that much economy. I mean, he's got decent economy right now, at least compared to Protoss. He's got quite a bit. Here we go again. One of the balloons gets popped. Zergling drop once more. The mothership coming in by herself. Hold my beer, I got this. Shooting some lasers. Nexus in the meantime, though, on the left side of the map does die. We have a couple units here for the Zerg over at the front door. Being annoying. Cloaking Field once more. Just keeping so many of these units around. Big Stormy. Yeah. MaxPax has been pushed into just 3 bases. And those are bases that have been up for, well, more than like 12 minutes each. So, problem is, he doesn't have any income anymore. At least not compared to the Zerg. Maybe Rogue doesn't have a lot of workers. Like, he hasn't had that many workers throughout this game. I mean, right now he's sitting at 80, but he just has a lot more, yeah, empty mineral fields. He's not also... he's not super rich. He's not super rich here. He's just got a massive advantage. Bank-wise, though, there's still enough for the Protoss to continue making an army, and he's trying to slowly do exactly that, but the Corruptors don't want to let this game go on any longer. GG gets gold, and Rogue obtains the victory. And that means that this series comes down to King's Cove. Final map in this best of 3. These two seem to be extremely evenly matched. Keep in mind, though, that in that previous game, MaxPax lost pretty much all of his army when he first went across the map with the Stalkers. Those +1 Zerglings really did hit hard. He thought he had a nice stasis ward of them, but yeah, then it turns out there's a lot more Zerglings on the back of it. And not a whole lot needed to really change there for Protoss, for that game to be in his favor. Nicely done, though, by Rogue. Really showing us all that chaos that he is well known for. Not really going Corruptors until the absolute last possibility, but then as soon as those units showed up, it was game over there for MaxPax. He just couldn't do much against it. I have actually now caught MaxPax a couple times, though, with a lot of resources in the bank in the late game, while not being maxed out. I know this is kind of a common thing at the highest level, where players are sitting at like 170 supply with like 10,000 resources in the bank, and you're wondering why. It is one of those things you have to pay attention to. The problem you run into as Protoss is that if you do get Nidus, you want to be able to build a bunch of zealots, right? Like, you want to be able to warp in a round of units and then instantly kill the Nidus worm. So you don't really want to, like, fully max out. But at the same time, you also don't want to have, you know, 160-ish supply or whatever, which you don't really want to warp in 40 additional supply of gateway units in the later stages of the game. It's a bit of a balancing act. Anyhow, King's Cove is a big map. Lots of bases. Relatively easy expansion patterns. Creep Tumor here is actually blocking the positioning of everything, yeah. So, I guess we can put a queen on hold position, maybe go Roach Warren right next to it. Looks like Rogue once more wants to go into the +1 melee. At least that looks like the strategy. Curious to see if MaxPax wants to go into a similar build once more. So again, it all looks similar, but now he does go for the third Oracle. A slightly later third Nexus. A slightly faster third Oracle, and then, well, we'll have to see if it goes into Blink once more. He's gone into Glaive to Depths, then he went into Blink in game number 2. So game number 1, Glaive to Depths. Game number 2, Blink first. Do we go charge? We could. Not a terrible option. Six drones so far is actually quite good. Don't think anybody can really complain about that. Ooh, hatchery does go down. Queens are going to be able to push that Oracle away. Lair starts up at about the 5-minute mark. It is indeed, by the way, +1 melee. And what will it be for the Protoss? He doesn't have minerals. Yeah, he's making gateways. Blink. It's gonna be Blink. Right? Well, this is awkward. I hope for his sake, okay, that he does go back and checks, because that could be a disaster. Nice little bit of micro here on those Oracles. Good transfusion as well on the Queens. Enough Zerglings available. I think you fly. I think you fly. Fly, you fool! Maybe you don't? You don't? It looked like he needed to fly, but that's actually quite good. 4 of those Adepts, a lot of Zerglings forced out, and then 3 Queen kills. 6 drones as well. We already had those earlier. Obviously, the Oracles at this point don't have a lot of energy, but energy recharge is going to be really good. Does he even need it? No, he doesn't need it. It's fine. Infestation Pit coming up right now here for Rogue, who is going Hydras, and who skipped Veiling Nests, as well as a Roach Warren here. He hasn't made that yet either. So, cutting a corner here is Rogue. Wait. He cancelled! He was waiting until I didn't pay attention. He cancelled Blink and went into Charge instead. I see how it is. I see how it is, Max. I'm not upset, I'm just disappointed. That's all. Then again, I'm disappointed about many things. So, you know, it is what it is. I actually think this could be really nice, though. Archon Zealot hits like a truck against Ling Hydra. If Rogue, however, adds on a Baneling Nest, then suddenly those units can get... Yeah, they can get countered pretty easily. 4th Nexus, though, in the horizontal position. Considered to be the easier line of defense in particular. So if you have to deal with any of the units coming in from this side, it's a lot less open than the expansion over here, because there's just so many attack paths. Rogue decided to go for this one first, because this is where the creep brought him home. Here's the Zealots. There's a lot of Zerglings, though. No Storm or anything, this is just Archons. Keep in mind that Archons deal splash damage, so they kill Zerglings really quickly. You just don't really want to have them as tanks for too long, because they're also very expensive. Nice retreating attack there. And now we're gonna go into the good old Storm. Hive coming up, and I'm assuming we're gonna go Lurkers. There is a second Evo. 5 Dropper Lords? Really? Okay. I guess the idea is to drop over here. We've seen this a lot, time and time again, on King's Cove in this matchup. Lurker drops in particular, though, they hit a little bit later usually, but lurker drops are very popular on this map. Ooh, he's gooping up with contamination. The Templar Archives, which basically pauses the research temporarily. It slows it down quite a bit, though, and it might mean that a Zergling attack dropped into the main base will not actually have Storm to defend. So that's, yeah. Not a bad idea. There's the Lurker then, though. A little bit late. And Dropper Lords or not, he needs his army at home for now, it seems, because even though Storm has been delayed, MaxPax is at the very least threatening a push. I don't know if he can really commit. He doesn't have a prism or anything like that, so I think he's just dancing. This is one of those, yeah, I think this is one of those situations where he's pretending to be really aggressive, but I don't think he really wants to commit. I mean, he's got Storm now. Those Dropper Lords have been halted. I don't think he wants to attack. Like, we can tell from the way he's moving, but Rogue doesn't have all the info. So here's Fleet Beacon once more. The Fleet Beacon together with 2 Stargates. This is a greedy transition from MaxPax, but considering the advantage he built for himself earlier on, I think it's fine. We're gonna go into the Hydra upgrade as well. Give them the ability to lunge. Lurkers aren't yet done, so maybe this is a good opportunity to attack, although also a little bit risky. Lurkers are just about to finish up. Zerglings are coming in from every side right now. Those were the links that were supposed to go into the balloons. Massive fight happening all over. Lurkers actually get cancelled over there. MaxPax is smelling blood in the water. He's not intending to win just yet. But he's saying, yo, don't mind if I do. He could have made a prism. I think he wanted to go into a proper Skytools transition right now, and maybe he should. Yeah, maybe back off, go into a couple Tempest. This has mostly been a trade of the armies. And MaxPax again with so much money in the bank. There we go. Triple carrier. Screw you, mothership. You've been the MVP in both games so far, but we don't care. Zealots want to kill some drones down there, but there are none. Zealots in the meantime over here in the main fight absolutely destroying Zerglings. Plus one air weapon starts up too. Yeah, MaxPax. A monster. An absolute monster. There's a small bit of refinement that we can still see as an opportunity in MaxPax's play. But that's the nice thing about the Protoss here. He is still genuinely getting better. I feel like a lot of the top tier players that I cast all the time, I don't want to say they're stagnant as far as their progression goes, but they seem to get better at a similar rate as all the other top level players, right? Whereas MaxPax still has an upwards trend. It's really nice to see. Curious to see what he's going to do for the rest of 2025, because he is looking powerful right now. GG.